And then we'll go in live. No, doesn't want to work. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. So hello, Robert. Robert's always the first one on this screen. It's amazing. Robert, you're an absolute sweetheart, and you're such a what's the word? Fan, I think is the word. But hello, everybody, and welcome. And tonight we have a very, very interesting guest on, Peter Smith, who we have had on here before. So thank you for joining me, Peter. And we were just talking, and you'll understand why I'm going to say this, but I envisaged Peter in a TARDIS doing a Doctor Who all the way through the galaxy, and visiting different things and places. But anyway, I'm going to read some blurb about him. But don't forget, if you've got questions, please let me have your questions. And as we go through our chat, if you've got anything you want to say, let me know. If you've got any names for healing, of course, they always go in my lovely healing book, which is my prayer book by Anne Boleyn's prayer book. We will be talking about Peter's latest book. But let me just read. I was fascinated when I mean, I've known Peter for a few years, but there was things in here that I just didn't have a clue, which I love when you find out new things about people. So let me just read this because, I wouldn't be able to say it off the top of my head. So Peter's always been inspired by his work at the Michael Newton Institute for Life Between Lives Hypnotherapy, which is MNI. He was president of the Institute from 2009 to 2019 and now serves on the MNI Advisory Council. He was a top executive in banking, which I didn't know, which is interesting. Peter was awarded the Peggy Newton Award for Outstanding Service to the MNI in 2013 and has trained LBL practitioners and teachers in different parts of the world since 2006. So as you can see, this is pretty big stuff. He regularly speaks at various conferences and radio programs and has participated in a number of documentaries, both in Australia and overseas. This goes on, Peter. It's incredible. He's published a number of articles on consciousness, and has written for Nexus Magazine, the Llewellyn Publishing Journal. You notice I said that right. Psychic News in the UK, and has a regular column in the Newton Institute Research Journal. He's also a co-author of Memories of the Afterlife, the final book and best-selling Life Between Lives quadrilogy. Now, I had to ask about that word. Trilogy is 3 books, quadrilogy is 4 books. I like that one. In his recent book, The Transcendence of Celeste, which I have a copy of here, this is a work of metaphysical fiction drawing on 20 years of consciousness, and it was released in July last year. So I want to read you, let me get my other screen back so I can see what I'm doing and who I'm talking to. Okie dokie. Oh, there you are. I found you again. So the story, and you can talk about this more afterwards, Peter, but it's the Transcendence of Celeste Kelly. And it says, when Celeste Kelly, a brilliant but troubled young physicist from Australia, attempts to find the hidden secret shared within the many worlds of theory, the uncertainty principle, and string theory, Bob, a being from another dimension, materializes to expand her research, hoping that she will help steer humanity to a new level of consciousness. Inspired by their vision, she takes on the challenge, but in order to help build a brighter future for our planet, she must overcome personal tragedy, move far beyond accepted science, and outsmart those who wish to silence her. Her own transcendence may open the door for the rest of humanity to follow, but only if she survives long enough to share her discoveries. Now, I've got to admit that I've only read part of the book, but I couldn't get over the fact that she had so much difficulties in trying to start that whole process in the way. So does that relate to you? in your
Well,
study?
well, my study doesn't really compare to hers in quantum physics, I guess, but scientifically anyway. But I think she's a bit like all of us. She she's challenged when she wants to make a difference to the world. Things seem to try and hold you back from it, so she really has to push through and find a way. Celeste is an interesting character because some of her challenges have certainly been my challenges, Val. You know them well enough with changing
Yep,
mindsets and that sort of stuff.
yep, absolutely.
But with a lot of the challenges I've had over the years and the discoveries that I've made, they managed to wind their way into the story. That gives us an opportunity to identify with her, track her progress, travel the challenges with her. And, once we start to open to the metaphysical, the landscape changes in such an amazing way. And we realize that a lot of what we've learned in our education systems is just plain wrong.
Mm.
So her challenges are the challenges that many of us face.
Yeah, and I love the fact that I'm trying. I'll find it in a minute, but the way there's some people coming in on here. So Robert, we've said hello. He says hello to you, Peter. Ian Tamplin is in the UK. Thai fam is up in Toowoomba, if I'm right, if I remember rightly. And Thai is going to be cross with me if I've forgotten. But I love there were a couple of quotes in here as well, and you've done some quotes from famous people, famous speakers over the years. I'm trying to find the one that I read, and I actually quite liked it. Oh, this is the one. So you said she says, I'm putting myself forward as a PhD candidate in the field of theoretical physics, a doctor of philosophy, no less, a field that goes back in time to the musings of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. I believe we can imagine things into existence and that we perpetually intrude on reality without knowing it. One of my favorite Einstein quotes is, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there will be to know and understand." And when I read that little section there, that made me think of the work that I do with spirit. And we're crossing over dimensions. It's different to what you do, but I don't think it is that different. I may not give it the same title that you give it, but I know that when people ask me, how do you talk to dead people? How do you have that connection? What makes that happen? And that's what you're doing. You're showing people that the other thing that I read as well was that we can bring into our reality everything that we want because we've already got it there, in certain words. Am I right? Or have I read that all wrong?
No, absolutely. We create our own realities, Val, very much so. And even a quantum physicist will tell you that we intrude on reality all the time. It's called the observer effect. And they discovered this like 100 years ago. But what you say about the overlap between our two fields of work, I mean, it's all the metaphysical. And my work with Michael Newton Institute in the Afterlife is all about the thinning of the veil. I mean, the work that you do as well is about the thinning of the veil. It's time for us to realize that we're actually metaphysical beings in a pretend physical landscape. There is so much happening around us that we can't see. And when we close our thinking minds off and we transcend the conditioning that we've been offered through our education systems and family and all that growing up, I mean, we can start to look at the world anew through fresh eyes that allow us to see the things that we couldn't see before. Sometimes we've got to trust that that stuff's out there. I mean, the whole universe is metaphysical. And we are just one little piece of that physical landscape. And we are a doorway to the metaphysical as well. I mean, we all know that. I mean, we can take people on journeys into other lifetimes to retrieve memories that are, held in the quantum field of who they are. I mean, there's so much available to us. We just haven't quite shifted our belief systems to embrace it all.
I like the fact that you use that word trust, because when I'm teaching mediumship, I I use that word a million times in every class, I think, because unless we trust and believe that there is something else, and of course we are on all, there's so many different dimensions around us, and we're only tapping into one. When we do mediumship, we're tapping into another. When you do the quantum physics, it's another and another and another. And I love the fact that it talks on the back of the book there about Bob, the being from outer space, I think it's what he said, a being from another dimension. How fantastic is that? Because we're not alone in this universe, are we? I mean, there's got to be, I always say to people, or I've said in the past, that we can't be the only planet in the universe that has intelligent life on it.
Well, many years ago, and some people who are, our vintage, Val, might have heard of Eric von Daniken, who was around
Oh,
for
wow, yes.
the Chariots of the Gods back in the 70s. 1968, I think he originally published that. But he started to pull together all of those different, if you like, carvings and statues from all of the ancient cultures that showed people with like space helmets on. So he realized that all of these ancient cultures had contact with off-world races.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we look at that and we think that's crazy, but he actually got a group of mathematicians into a room and he got them to work out the probability of life on other planets. And it came up with 0.99999999999 that there's probability on other planets when you look at all of the galaxies, all of the the different planets that can sustain life that are similar to ours. I mean, we're part of a galaxy of billions of stars. What makes us think we ever possibly be the only inhabited planet? It's happened here, but nowhere else in a limitlessly universe. I mean, that makes no sense.
Yeah. It's interesting because I just talked about my lovely Anne Boleyn's prayer book, and of course Anne Boleyn comes from I can't remember if it's the 1600s, whatever she comes from. Anyway, she was the wife of Henry VIII, or one of the wives of Henry VIII. And I suddenly realised that when you look at the book and look at the pictures, one of those pictures has got one of those globes around somebody's head. So it's been there for decades, eons, whatever. And I know my son used to talk about when he was 16 that he'd been abducted by aliens and that they had worked on him and that sort of thing. And he's now a scientist, which I find really amazing. And when you talk to him about it, no, that never happened. But when he was 16, he was absolutely convinced. He used to buy all these magazines. But yeah, we'd be really silly to think that wasn't the case, wouldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. And there's so much evidence for this now. And, there's so many sightings these days. And there's so much information starting to come out that the government knows more about this than they're saying. And even without all of that, I mean, I've got my own experiences with clients where many of them gone to off-world lives. They've made contact with other groups. People tell me they've incarnated here and they have a more cosmic flavor to their soul, and this is a difficult planet and other ones are much easier. I mean, this information is, really starting to cascade through in abundance. And what we need to do is to actually just listen to it and follow the leads.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, you've got people like Mary Rodwell, who does the light language, the communication with the aliens. I don't like to call them aliens because we're probably the aliens and not them. But it is wonderful to think. And I know I worked with you. I think actually I was just trying to remember how it happened. I was doing a reading for you, and the whole thing flipped around, didn't it? It was just amazing, and I can't remember. Was it you giving a reading to me or me giving a reading to you? I can't remember. But
it was actually both, Val, because I was doing a journey for you, and then you got a message for me, which you passed on.
Yeah,
that there were a group of people on the other side who knew something about quantum physics that wanted to work with me, and they, you put me in touch with them, and that was your day, of course. So I said thank you, and I went back for them at a later time and reconnected with them after you did our introductions, and they helped me with that book. So that was fantastic. That that's a real crossover in our work, if you like.
So was that this book or was that the previous book?
That's that one.
Oh wow! Oh, I'm impressed. I didn't even realize that one. So that's exciting. But
Well,
isn't it funny?
there's a mention for you in the acknowledgements. You might not have got to that yet.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Sorry. But isn't that amazing that that was not supposed to happen, and then that actually did happen? I just love that crossover of different things. It's just amazing. So we've got some extra people in here. Ian said that. You said that's what started your interest, and I think that might have been to do with aliens, people from other planets. Cheryl says Henry VIII thought Anne Boleyn was a witch. Okay. Robert says he remembers RR. That's I can't remember who's RR. Lisa Ann, good morning. The unknown can be scary. I've got shivers listening to the possibility of what you guys are talking about. But do you know what, though, Leanne? This is not a new subject. As you said, Peter, Eric von Daniken was writing about these things all the way back in the 60s. My mother-in-law in the 70s belonged to a UFO sighting group. And it was all hush hush. And of course, we've got Area 52, I think it is, isn't it? Where there is all this hush hush stuff. And then you've got the ETs and where does all that information come? It doesn't come just from people's imagination. It comes from something, somewhere.
It certainly does. And and you mentioned Mary Rodwell before. She's doing some fantastic work with the Starseed children. And they're coming in with full memories of their galactic heritage, and they're sharing them with their parents. And a lot of Mary's work is about helping those parents come to terms with that. And I'm finding that as well, that a lot more people are coming into this world with an understanding of the cosmic flavor of their greater consciousness. And I'm having people telling me in sessions, I'm here to be part of the changes. There's a lot of excitement around the universe, that there's a shift of consciousness here, and I wanted to be part of it. So I took a human form here and chose an incarnation for this planet in the here and now. I mean, you hear that once, you hear that twice, and you think, well, that's interesting. But when you hear it all the time from lots of different people, none of them have met each other. There's something emerging in the collective consciousness that's really important. And we're lucky enough to be at the forefront of some of those conversations.
Leanne's just asked an interesting question. I wonder if alien spirits are different to earthling spirits.
It's a great question. My experience is that we are all multidimensional beings, all of us. And sometimes we'll incarnate here, sometimes we'll incarnate in other places. I did for the first 800 or so Life Between Lives sessions that I did, I always had a little question that I asked. And when I got the answer so often, I didn't worry about it after a while because I proved the point. Out of those 800 people, I asked 798 of them, have you ever had a lifetime on another planet or in another dimension? Sorry, it was 800 people. 798 said yes, and 2 didn't know, but I don't think they were ready to know.
Right.
So my experience of just asking that question, over about a 10-year period was that, we've all had lifetimes elsewhere. And whilst that might sound scary to people, most planets out there are very peaceful and relaxing. It's like this is a very busy and difficult planet compared to many others that are out there that we can incarnate on. So if you've had lives elsewhere, that's great because you've had a breather. Maybe you've come here for a bit of a learning experience, but whatever you've chosen to do here is happens with the full support of spirit. So you've got helpers around you that you don't even know exist, and they're helping you through every day.
It's interesting because Ian's just said that the book he was on about was my father's house. There are many mansions, and I know myself, I've done past life regression because I know that I've been here a million times before. I mean, whether it was a million or whether it was 5, I don't know, but it feels like a million. But I feel as if there is an awful lot of subconscious memories and information that I can just tap into these things every now and again, and I don't know where they come from. It's really bizarre. But when I had the past life regression, I mean, that's just scratching the surface. I've never had an alien connection, although I wonder. Yeah, I think I'm a bit alien anyway. But anyway, but I do think that is just scratching the surface. And even if the people out there have a go at past life regression, that is fascinating in itself. Yeah. So Leanna said, "I wonder how." Mary Perry, it's a fascinating discussion. Thank you. Leanna's just said, "I wonder how that would change religious beliefs."
It depends how you define religion. I mean, for me, most of religion is doctrine.
Yes.
I don't want to upset anybody, but I think if you go back to the original purity of the religions, where it had love and peace and compassion at its core, then, that's just spiritual consciousness, really. That there's a greater knowing of who we are and that we're all love at the end of the day. Love is the most powerful energy in the universe. And a lot of the great prophets through time have preached that as really a universal message. When we end up in religious wars and my God's better than your God and all that sort of stuff, I think we've really lost our way because, we are all part of the divine and we're all the same. There's nothing really between us. We choose different incarnations, cultures, races, countries, lifetime to lifetime to round out our experiences. But the separation that religion brings tells me that that's more an energy that's driven by humans, not driven by the divine energies that true religion started with.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because again, I'm thinking of the depictions or pictures that are depicting the Bible, and the number of beings that have got those globe things on their heads. And so, what is that? Is that they just glowed? Is it that they wore those? Are they from different planets? And you think, well, okay. Okay, yeah, it's an interesting subject, but that's going back to when the Bible was written, and that was 2,000 years ago. More than 2,000 years ago now.
It was written in ancient times before there were printing presses and before it had to be translated many, many times from the original Old Hebrew into English anyway. So, it's not like it's a document in its original format.
No, it got changed.
So I think we've got to take stuff with a grain of salt around that. For me, the true religion happens with the resonance that you feel within you. And if there's something there, a message and something for you that calls to you and it resonates with the fabric of your soul, that's the kind of thing to listen to rather than the doctrine.
Cheryl's just said maybe everybody at that time was able to see auras and that's why they glowed.
Who knows?
And also, I suppose when you look at the culture that we're in now, there's so much outside interference that we can't always see what's going on around people. I mean, we all have auras, we all glow, but some people just don't see it. Other people do, obviously. There was something else I was going to say in there as well. Robert says, I believe that people need to create something that makes sense to them, and calling it religion is a way of trying to make it fit a particular purpose.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So I've recently, been talking about, I know that as humans, we come into this world, or we come in as a spirit. We choose to come into this world, and we choose to come in to learn a lesson. We're sent, if you like, we're sent, and then we have to choose the parents and blah, blah, blah. When I heard that, I went, no, I'm not going to choose them. Why would I do that? But now I look at it and I think I know exactly why that is. So for every time we come into this world, we're incarnating and we're working our way up the spiritual ladder. And I particularly don't want to have to come back again, because I think I'm meant for better things over there. So I'm going to go up there with a pair of boxing gloves and sort them out if they make me come back again. But I'm thinking that if you're just a good person who does the best that you possibly can for as many people as you can, then surely that's got to be enough to get you to where you need to be.
Well, from Michael Newton's research, and he had 7,000 case studies of the between lives phenomenon in the spiritual realm.
7,000.
And we've reproduced that at Michael Newton Institute 10 times over now. We've got over 200 people in 40 countries. The themes that we're getting around pre-life planning, if you like, is that people choose to come back for a particular incarnation with certain things that they want to learn. Now, a theme that I've seen is that a lot of light worker type people who are here to make a difference and raise the vibration actually choose tough families and difficult childhoods for two reasons. This may resonate a little, Val.
Do tell me.
So the first is that if you're going to have, you can't learn healing from a book. Okay, you learn it through your own energy, your own experience, transcending your own difficulties, all of that. So a lot of light workers are incarnating into difficult families where they have tough childhoods to learn about energy. And then as they clear the debris of all of that leaves with them, they learn how to help other people along the way. The second one is that I feel, and I've seen this a lot with the intergenerational work now, a lot of people are incarnating into difficult family lines because this trauma has been passed down through the generations and it's time for them to stop. So when somebody of a different mix drops into that family line and they have different views or they look at things differently or they have a different intention, that doesn't go to the next generation because they're here to be the stopper in the intergenerational pattern. Now, interestingly, years ago when, I'm more into consciousness these days, but I've run a couple of big hypnotherapy networks over the years. And I remember being in a meeting with 40 hypnotherapists in Melbourne that I was chairing. And somebody cracked a joke and said, oh, well, my family don't really understand me. That's why I come here every month and talk to you guys. I'm the black sheep in my family. And I said, how many of you guys are the black sheep of your family? And all 40 of them put their hand up.
Yeah.
So we've had these. So, what I want to say to people is if they're spiritually inclined and their family isn't, there may be some greater reasons behind that you're here to bring a new energy into an old family culture that doesn't quite get it, to stop what's come down through the generations, or maybe to give those people an opportunity to learn more. But then it's not our job to wake them up, because free will means that that's their job. But we can offer conversations if the time's right to help them awaken. But if they choose not to, that's up to them. But just the presence of people like you and me and others in family lines changes that vibration.
Which is a lovely thought, isn't it? I mean, Ian has just said perhaps we come back to teach and guide others, which is exactly what you've just said, isn't it? Which is lovely, to stop the damage. I mean, I look at the world as it is at the moment. I think, oh my God, I turned the news on for some reason tonight. Now, I don't normally watch the news, and it was all doom and gloom and war and fighting and whatever. And I'm thinking, for goodness sake. And then I'm thinking, if there is all these beautiful people from other galaxies outside, can't they sort of step in and say, enough is enough? Let's just put you out there and leave the good people all doing what they should be doing. That's probably very naive, but it frightens me, especially I've got grandchildren. What sort of world are we creating for the grandchildren? But at least we are having these conversations now, which, years ago, all these conversations used to be behind closed doors, as mediumship did. It was not an open thing as it is now. It was all done behind closed doors, and you only got to do it if you were invited. So I think we're very lucky in this day and age that we can actually own up to being the black sheeps of the family, but we're all doing some good to try and make this world a better place. And I think, I always think about the lovely Michael Jackson. His words to his music and songs were incredible. He was a very, I think he must have been from another planet. I really do. But he tried to do exactly that. And of course, he was the black sheep of the family as well. So, okay. So tell us a little bit more about Celeste Kelly. She sounds a very interesting character. She sounds like a fighter. She's going to do it no matter what. and she's going to fight against anything and everything to make sure she does prove these things that she believes.
Well, let me do a little bit of background first, because it sort of winds in what we were talking about before when you brought that message for me. I'd written a couple of non-fiction books. Quantum Consciousness was my one before that. And I sat down, I was going to write the next book about universal consciousness. And I sat there for months, Val, and nothing was coming. And my dear partner, Melina, who you've met, and she said to me, well, why don't you write a novel? Because you wrote some stuff on Facebook. I was writing some snapshots of the future of promoting a better world. And she said, everybody loved those. Why don't you write something like that? I said, okay. Well, I sat down and then I started to think, okay, I started to map out, what would a novel look like and all of that. And then I had that conversation with you, and then I was plugged into something more. And then the book started to emerge from there. And I found an editor who I went back and forth with to about 8 versions of the book, as all good editors do. And in the end, the book emerged. That was a combination of all of my research into quantum physics, all of my metaphysical experiences in 20 years of clinical practice. I went to the University of New South Wales, so that was part of the setting. Lived in the Blue Mountains for a while, so that was part of the setting. So it was like I pulled different parts of my experience together into creating a tale about a quantum physicist who's trying to do a PhD. She's tragically lost both of her parents, and she's dealing with the grief of that. She does actually go to see a medium at one point, which you probably got to that point already. That's early on.
Yeah.
But she starts to unravel the fabric to know that of the universe, to know that there is so much more than this physical. And she's trying to interpret like the many worlds interpretation, which talks about parallel, worlds, that sort of stuff. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, where particles just disappear and go somewhere, no one knows where they go, and string theory that tells us that there's 12 different dimensions in order for the maths to work. So she sets about trying to find these dimensions, and in doing so she has to explore the metaphysical to its fullness, and she brings new healing systems in. Once she's discovered some of this metaphysical stuff, she starts to run it as a science experiment, but these people participate and they get better. And 20 years of depression drops away, or anxiety, or whatever it might be. Anyway, without doing a whole spoiler alert on the book, she eventually moves through and discovers incredible things about herself and turns those experiences to externally in order to try and help the world.
Wow. Do you know, every time I speak to you, Peter, I think I need to go and learn how to do all of this stuff that you do, because I'm sure it would accentuate what I do. And it's funny because I'm looking for something different, and I'm not sure what that different looks like. And it's very scary, actually. So I need to talk to you, because I think maybe I should do some of your training to open up different sides of me, because I know these things are real. I know that there are the other dimensions. So and I wish more people knew and accepted and were not frightened of that. I don't know, just as a aside, I don't know if I ever told you, but a few years ago I was in Adelaide, and I had the luck to stay on a riverboat it was a tributary of the Murray River. And I'd done a show and went back, was very excited. And I'm on my computer in one bedroom, and my friend is in the other bedroom. And all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, and it was, Val, are you awake? Are you awake? And I said, yes. So she said, come. So we went outside and we stood on the back of the boat, and there was this most eerie noise. And we couldn't work out what it was. And then all of a sudden, this eerie noise became like a million times an engine coming up the river towards us. We're on a tributary. There is no movement. And all of a sudden, the boat's doing this. Okay. And we're standing on, holding each other for grim death, because we thought we were going to go over the back. And she's saying, we mean you no harm. We understand. And she's probably, I saw her name on here earlier, and she's on here. And we were listening. And then all of a sudden it went silent, nothing. And then, when a duck flaps its wings on water and you hear that funny noise, well, we had that multiplied by, I don't know how many over there. Stop, silence. over there, stop, silence. And then in front of us, stop, silence. And all the time Rosemary's talking to, she thought it was alien people, and we believe that it was. And then all of a sudden that silence happened again, and then this whoosh, and the boat was doing this again. And God, we went to bed, we were terrified. Anyway, we went to bed that night, and I had this very incredible thing where there was somebody standing by the side of me, and there was this noise going into my ear, and it was like a ooh, 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 it was really high pitched, whatever. When we got up in the morning and we had breakfast, I said to Rosemary, I said, I had this thing happen last night about 3 times. And she said, so did I. So we didn't know, we both had the same. And then we were telling some people who owned the boat and the land, and they said that there is a lake not far from there where people go and watch the alien spaceship coming out. The runway lights up under the lake, and all these ships take off and come back.
Wow.
So that was an incredible experience, as far as I was concerned. And I know the only thing I can think about is Rosemary in a pajama top, and that was it. And we're both standing out on this, and Rosemary's a little bit older than me, but it was just, I can see the whole picture, but it was just, it was terrifying, but it was also really, really exciting, because we knew it was something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And your experience, and so many other people are having experiences, but they don't talk about them.
No, I know.
I mean, there's a thought that only 1 in 10 people who have a near-death experience tell somebody. I mean, my mother had one. She went down the tunnel and she came back because she had little kids, which was us. And she told me that story 30 years later when I gave her a copy of Journey of Souls by Michael Newton for Christmas.
Wow.
And, she cried when she told me, because she could finally tell someone who would understand, because I gave her the book. So, I mean, the metaphysical is as common as the physical. But when you choose not to have eyes to see it, then it doesn't come into your life as much as it possibly can. So, I believe that as soon as we all discover that we're metaphysical, and somebody said this, I can't remember who it was, whether it was Carl Sagan or someone, as soon as we start to explore the metaphysical instead of the physical, we'll accomplish more in 10 years than we have in the previous 100. Might have been Tesla. I can't remember now, but it's a great quote and I love it, because once you change your mindsets, you see all the stuff you couldn't see before.
Well, I mean, simple things like manifestation, visualization, bringing things into your lives that you want because you know that they will happen. That's all part of this, but it's on a small scale. But I know that, I mean, I create a vision board every year and I know it'll happen. I know it'll come true. It was really funny on the vision board in 2020. It was when COVID hit, and I'd done my vision board and COVID hit in the March, and my vision board said broadcasts, television, radio. And then all of a sudden I couldn't do any of my work the way I did my work. It all had to go online. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that was exactly what I'd put on there. Anyway, I've got bigger and better things on there now, and I'm waiting for them to happen as well. So Donna Evans says, yes, beings are real. I've had contact with the Lyran race, and recently a blue avian appeared in a meditation. I often have a lion stroke tiger beings come in, definitely other dimensions as well. Well, you're lucky if you're seeing those, Donna. And Cheryl says, my mother told my husband and me 24 hours before she died that she was going to die. So, it's just that awareness, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we are consciousness pretending to be human.
Yeah. So how can we tap more into that? How can we open that up?
The first thing for us to know and to understand is that this is a human disguise, very carefully chosen one that's fit for purpose, one that you chose ahead of 8 billion others that were available on this planet. So that's a very special act of unconditional love for our soul to choose to be us. mean, that's a
Wow.
beautiful thing. They're big numbers.
Yeah.
So, but once you understand that, once you start to have some of these metaphysical experiences, you realize that you've taken this human form in order to do what you came here to do. Now, that's great. And I can say, well, my disguise is Pete, but I'm not really Pete.
Yeah.
I'm more than Pete.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretending to be Pete. Now,
Yeah.
once you change the frame of that, and you say, well, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience rather than a human being having a few spiritual experiences along the way, that opens the door to so much more. Just to be aware of the fact that there's more to you than you know. And once you accept that as a possibility, things start to come into your line of sight that will help that, because our souls want us to learn and to grow and to discover more about the metaphysical. I mean, the soul already knows all about the metaphysical, but they want us to understand that in human form, so that when all of the humans understand the metaphysical, then the whole of humanity can shift its consciousness. I mean, you mentioned about the aliens as well. I mean, they are races that are just further ahead, and they are really urging us, but they're leaving it to our free will to be able to welcome them in when the time is right. And there's a guy in America called Howard Beatty who wrote a really good book called The E.T. Speak. And I know Howard well, and he and Mary Rodwell and I presented at the UFO MegaCon together in 2019. We shared a table. We all did separate presentations, but we all shared a piece of our work. But he has an amazing amount of research where he takes people into a place where they contact the other alien races. They bring information through. Now, he told us some years back that they're just waiting for a certain percentage of humanity to be open to them coming, and then they'll come, because they don't want to freak the majority of the people out. They don't want to cause an incident. They're not going to land on the White House lawn or Parliament House here in Australia or anything. They'll probably end up in the backwaters, and they'll talk to, ordinary people, and they'll pick people that'll come forward and take the message forward for them. So, they're not going to land in the middle of an Air Force base in America. We know what that'd bring.
Wow. Can you imagine? Yeah.
So they don't want to freak the people out. They're waiting for more of us to be open to what they can offer. And when the time is right, they'll come.
So that is talking about changing human consciousness on this planet and making this world a better place. But then when we pass and go back, do we go back to those original planets and be able to take some of that learning with us to there as well? Does it help the other planets and the other peoples in the universe also?
Well, there's a whole oneness thing going on here. I mean, you could look at us, I was born in New South Wales. You're born in Britain. I mean, we're in different parts of the world, but, when we come together and, I'm in your part of the world, in Sydney, down south there in Wollongong. Yep. When I'm down there, are we separate or are we one? Well, you might have been English born, I'm Australian born, but we're both Australians now. We're both citizens of this planet. You could, I'm a Queenslander. You're a New South Wales person these days. I mean, but we're both Australians.
Yeah.
So if you start to expand that out, and we say, oh, there's the Americans and there's the Russians and here are the Australians, but we're all Earthlings. And then if you start to, build that further out, then there's probably us and other planets. We're all humanoid. And then, as you go out, you just get varying degrees of oneness. And what we've been told, a lot of people have told me in session who have been in contact with other races off-world, what we do on this planet ripples out into the rest of the universe. Call it quantum entanglement, call it the ripple effect, call it non-locality. We can scientifically assess that, but what it means is that what's happening in one small corner ripples out holographically into the rest of the universe. Now, if we were to blow ourselves up and have some sort of a nuclear meltdown on this planet, I mean, there would be repercussions elsewhere. In fact, the sightings of off-world craft have greatly accelerated since the atomic bomb back in 1945. Roswell was in the 1950s, straight after. So it's like we're being very carefully watched. There are some people who've told stories about weapons being disarmed in midair. just as a bit of a message to say that, just be careful, you guys, because
You
we're not going to
can.
let you go too far.
Yeah.
So, it's, I believe that the universe is, we are the universe is us. What we do here affects everything. And I think that rather than try and make this world such a terrible place with all of the greed and the materialism and all the things that are holding us back, poverty and war and all of that, if we can just understand that there are no differences between any of us and bring peace, then that will ripple out into the universe instead. And I think
that's
that's what
got to.
our friends want us.
Yeah. And of course, we've got telepathy and all those sorts of things. And if I wanted to, it's funny, the number of times I'm thinking of somebody and they ring me. And I love that. And today I was looking after, I'm surprised I'm still awake actually, because I've been looking after a 6 and a 2-year-old today who were both sick. And so we sat quietly and we were watching a cartoon, and it was a mermaid cartoon. And it was a beautiful little thing in there because the mermaid had a shell around her neck. And when she touched it, she could, and I know it's only a story, but she could develop, a fishtail would turn into legs. But in the end, she gave one of the shells to this other character. And she said, when you need help and you need me, all you have to do is to put the shell in the water and tap it. And this light went and it found her. And then she got the message to say that there was something wrong and then was able to get in touch. We can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. I know you've got children and grandchildren as well, but we can do that. And it's lovely to think that our kids are watching things on the TV. And I know, it's supposed to be make believe or whatever, but they're going to look at that and go, well, is that possible? Yes, it is possible. So, but you do it, I do it, other people do it. We want somebody, we think about them and they will get in touch with us. I just love that.
I think that's a real phenomenon. I mean, you can even talk about it in terms of, scientific means of the quantum entanglement. Once particles are joined, they're never separated again. So when we have these closest relationships, we have an inkling of what's going on. But we should be teaching this stuff in schools to the kids.
Yes.
Really,
yes.
Val, before we sort of lose them into the scholarly education system that's more about indoctrination than it is about education.
Yeah.
So, if we could teach kids to meditate, if we could teach them to contact each other telepathically, I mean, we're going to build a whole new generation of people who are more empathic, more tuned into others' feelings. They won't hurt the people next to them because they'll empathize better. I mean, there's so many possibilities here if we change our systems.
Well, I don't know what it is about the parenting. I love that word. But it's people nowadays. I mean, I look at my children and they're parenting so differently to how I was parenting. I wasn't taught. I was just going, yeah, you go out there and have children and you do it your own way. Nowadays, there is so much knowledge at their fingertips. My daughter is a great researcher and she researches everything. I listen to the way she talks to her children, the way she shows her how to do things, and I just sit back and think, oh my goodness me, that is incredible. But they are trying, and I know, for instance, again during COVID, they were trying to entertain children. They were doing children's yoga on the television.
Yeah. Wow.
That is fantastic. But they should have, as you said, meditation, yoga, all of those things, the mindfulness things in schools. And the kids should be taught that from as soon as they go to school, shouldn't they?
Absolutely. And, if you look at America, it has so many tragic school shootings.
Oh.
If you teach the kids to meditate when they come to school, no one's going to bring a gun.
That's a very good point, isn't it?
Yeah. It's within our reach. It's at our fingertips. I mean, we can do this. We just have to change the way we look at things.
Yes. So we got to get people to buy this book. So I've put Peter's information where you can find the information about the book on here. And it really is a good read. It's a nice long read as well, but it's an easy read, even though it's sciencey. And when I first looked at it, I thought, I'm never going to be able to read this, but I've really enjoyed reading it. It is a gripper, but I've just been traveling around all over the place for the last month or whatever, and I haven't been able to get into it. but it's an incredible read. So The Transcendence of Celeste Kelly. I love the name. Did the name come from anywhere special?
Well, it sort of just came to my mind, but I tuned into it a little bit and thinking, how did I come up with that name? And Celeste, of course, is short for celestial. So there's something here that's quite cosmic that's going to unfold.
Yes.
And of course, Kelly's a great bushranger name for somebody who, told society and told the authorities what they thought. So, he wasn't all love and light, Ned Kelly, but he was a bit of a rebel. So there's something in that spoke to me, and the name just sort of came, I guess.
Well, he's like Robin Hood. They reckon that Robin Hood was a crook and a criminal, but he actually gave to he stole from the rich and gave to the poor. And from what I've read of Ned Kelly, there was something of that in him as well. I actually really look up to Ned Kelly. I think he's quite a nice character. Anyway, but there we go.
You'd have to be a descendant of Robin Hood somewhere along the line too, Val, wouldn't you?
It's my married name, so no, but I liked it, so I kept it. Yeah. Oh yes. Have we read the Celestine prophecy? Have you read the Celestine prophecy? You must have done.
Yeah, that was a big shift for me back in the 90s, I think, when I first read that.
94. Yeah. I took it on holiday to Greece and couldn't put it down, and it changed my life. There's two books that I can say changed my life, and the other one was The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
Okay. Yeah, another great book.
I think they're probably the two that just jump out at me, but the Celestine prophecy was incredible. I couldn't get enough of James Redman at the time. It was just beautiful reading. But it made you think of different things, and there was a lot of conspiracy things in that as well, weren't there? Especially in the 10th insight, if I remember rightly, about government and the different places where you were not allowed to go because there was government secret things going on there. But that happens all around us. But we just got to, I'm just trying to think, if we can make this world a better place, I'm going to say that again, by doing the things that we do and sending out those beautiful thoughts and those beautiful vibrations throughout our world. And then, so I believe also that people have said, oh, you should send money here and donate to this Biafra and Africa and whatever. And I, at a very early age, thought that surely if I make my world a better place and everybody does that, and as you said, we're all interconnected, whether it's the particles that have met when we do physically meet, but if we all do that, then the world will become a better place because of exactly that.
I couldn't agree more. The things that we can control that are within our field of influence, if you like, for us to hold the highest possible vibration we can and to share that with others. And I think the Dalai Lama said his religion is very simple. It's a religion of kindness. And if we all adopt that, then the world will be a better place. I mean, we make some ridiculous decisions. I mean, government spending billions of dollars on nuclear submarines that won't be ready for many, many years. I mean, we could stop so many people from starving to death with that money today. I mean, we just make decisions that are based on old world values that are heading us down the wrong path.
Yep. But when will they change that, the old world values? They keep going back to doing it as it was always done. When are they going to actually say, okay, let's do something different?
Well, history tells us that all systems that are based on a lower vibration eventually collapse. And I think that Western society, we're on the brink of collapse with our financial systems, our education systems, our medical systems. I mean, all of them have been infiltrated with the wrong energy. And when that happens, I think things fall away because the vibration of consciousness is rising up above those systems and they no longer suit. So when they fall away, others will take their place that will hold the right vibration because it will follow the vibration of the people. I mean, for us to help people wake up to the best that they can be, to find the answers that they seek, to look beyond where they've looked for answers before, to start to embrace the metaphysical as well as the physical. I mean, all of this is part of that path.
It's very hard, though. I mean, I just think about myself doing readings for people, and people come because they usually come for three reasons. They want to connect to loved ones, but usually it falls into these two categories. Am I going to meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger, or am I going to get off the day shift? You know, and you think, oh, for goodness sake. Or they want you to tell them how to run their lives because they're not prepared, or, and I was going to say capable, but I'm going to say prepared to look at how they can do it differently themselves. And so you can go through a whole reading of telling them, do this, do this, do this, do this, and what about? And they go, oh, yes, but. And you think, oh, it's frustrating because some people don't want to see it.
Well, that's right. I mean, we've got a life that we've chosen to live. How we do that comes down to our free will, and for us to realize that there is so much more in our power than what we thought there was, that's a great awakening. Some people, even if they come to you and you have a little conversation like you've just had with me, I mean, even that can start to wake them up, you know. Well, I can't do it, but you can. So when are you going to start? So, you know, even a conversation like that they've never had before can be a start point for some.
It's funny because I find that a lot of my readings have changed recently, and it was just making the connections to loved ones. But when people come and they're so lost, and it's not telling them what to do, but you make them look at the world. Is that right? You're making them look at the world in a way they should be looking at the world instead of with those blinkers on. So just opening their eyes to what the possibilities are out there. So because we can't tell somebody else how to live their lives, but we can help to show them what is actually out there. Yeah, but Cheryl has just said here, kindness and tolerance of others' opinions will do a lot for world peace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's share that. Let's go into the world, try to do the best that we can, be as kind as we can, and share that love when we can. And don't go up to everybody in the street and say, I love you, because you'll probably get slapped or whatever. But you can send those messages via your mind, your mental thoughts. It doesn't have to be a physical, verbal thing. It's like sending, I do absent healing, and I talk about absent healing here. And the number of people that say, wow, I'm feeling so much better. What have you done?
Yeah.
And it's a collective energy that is attacked or sent to somebody that does actually make a difference. So it's all part of what you're talking about as well, Peter, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we're all together in this. I mean, we've got a planet to take to a whole new vibration. So let's get on with it. Let's start to have the conversations that start to raise the vibration of humanity. I mean, give somebody a book, show them, get them a ticket to, you know, one of the shows where they can see the metaphysical in action. I mean, just do something to help people shift that little bit. I mean, the people who are listening here are the ones that are already enrolled, but everyone can play a role in helping somebody else discover more about themselves, more about this metaphysical world that we truly live in. Don't stop. Keep doing it.
Well, I think there's a couple of different comments that are coming in here. Cheryl, I'm really glad to see that comment that you've put up there. Thank you for that. But yeah, if we can all do our little bit, then it will make this whole place a better place. And, you know, even if we don't have all the answers, direct people to something like a book that people like Peter have written, and, you know, get them to talk to other people, but just opening up about the possibilities of these things, I think, is an important thing. So we've just come to 8 o'clock, so I know we've got to stop, but I just wanted to, so what's coming up for you, Peter? I know you've got a conference coming up in September in Sydney. People might be interested in going.
Yeah, we've got the Afterlife Convention at the Hordern Pavilion, September 6 to 8. It's the same program each day, so I'm actually speaking 3 days in a row. Yeah, there's a big expo there as well with lots of different things in the auditorium. So that's the afterlifeconvention.com. As well as that, you know, we're continuing to do our quantum work. You know, I've got a great network of practitioners around the place now. I've got our Life Between Lives work at the Michael Newton Institute, and newtoninstitute.org. So there's so many opportunities really for people to explore the metaphysical and what there was many years ago. So, I've got a busy year coming up, Val.
Well, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. And I'm sure our paths will cross at some point or other. I was hoping to get to the conference one of the days at least, so I'll try
Great.
my best to do that. It'd be nice. Is Melina going to be there as well?
She will, yes.
Okay, all right. I look forward to seeing you both. But also, I've got to talk about my stuff as well because I've got stuff coming up. Tomorrow night is the online service of Newtown Spiritualist online. Newtown Spiritualist Connected Inner West Connected Spirits. I always get it the wrong way around. Anyway, that's online with the medium being Karen Wood. Wednesday night, I'm actually doing a mediumship show at Mortdale RSL. So that's 7:30 to 9:30, where I will be connecting to loved ones from spirit. And and I'll really, really look forward to that. That'd be fantastic. Ongoing readings and ongoing house parties and ongoing teaching. But you've only got to go to my website and have a look. And I've had Peter's information up. I'll put it up again if you haven't made a note of the website. But you can go on Peter's website and you will be able to see an awful lot of things. There were so many things that I wanted to grab and read, and I just couldn't. But they all grabbed my attention, and I couldn't say them all. But also talking of books, don't forget you can still get my book 5 Minutes More, which is all the information's on my website. And this is the story of my journey, which has been incredible, scary, but also very uplifting, enlightening. And that journey got me to Australia. And it's interesting, I don't know if you know the story, Peter, but in 2008, Spirit shouted at me and said, you've got to give everything up over here and you've got to go to the other side of the world. And you can imagine my reaction to that. I screamed and shouted and went, how on earth is that going to happen? But I thought, well, okay, I'm not an airy-fairy person and, my feet are on the ground. But I thought, well, if I've been told that, then I need to make something happen. So be a bit proactive. So I thought, well, maybe I could go to Australia and do some work and come home and just do that for 3 months at a time. Never in a million years thinking that I would be offered a 457 visa, which sadly didn't work, but I'm here and I've had my visa now for 4 years. So I believed, I trusted, I manifested, I visualized all of those things, but it was able to happen. And I'm here, and I've met lovely people like Peter along the way, which has been fantastic. So I look forward to meeting you in person again. And if ever you're in this neck of the woods, because I know Melina's got family here, hasn't she?
She does, yeah, up in the Sutherland Shire, and a sister down around your way.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for tonight. I'm sure from the comments that we've had that everybody's enjoyed listening to you. And of course, this will go out anyway. It's funny, on the night, you may get limited numbers and then it just grows and grows through the week, which is interesting. But I wish you well with your book and wish you well. You've got another book on the go.
I'm writing a sequel to that one. It's still very early.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I just got told.
Okay, it's still ruminating around, and I'm about to put the flip charts up on the wall and start the plot. So yeah, it's you're very early on, and you're very well informed.
Yes. Oh well, I'm always well informed. But I was just told, a book. Okay. Yep. So I'm being told you've got to get on with it. Okay.
Okay. All right. Message received.
Yeah. That's what I like about when we've spoken before. Things have come out and we're going, oh, goodness me. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you so much, Peter, for giving us your very, very valuable time. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. Love to Melina, and hope to see you in September. Everybody's saying thank you. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you next
everybody.
See you next week. Next week is readings. So I never thought I'd ever do online readings, Peter, but here I am and I'm doing them. Don't ask, but I am. So
Good.
it's obviously meant to be. I'm just following, I'm just following what Spirit want me to do, which is interesting. But anyway, we will speak to you again soon, and please take care. But I'm going to speak to you about some of this other stuff because I think I need to explore more.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Val. Great to see you again, and great to talk to you people.
You too. All right. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.